Welcome back, everyone. We're building this thing and we're kind of moving. I feel that this episode probably be called What Nobody in Education Wants to Say Out Loud. But we do say things out loud, and we do say things that hopefully people will hear. And maybe on this one, people who aren't in education might get something good out of it. And I would just like to give educators a voice on this one. Again, I work for a public school district. I've been an educator for about 18 years now, worked with kids, teachers, parents, administration, specialists, and there's a lot of things that happen inside the school every single day that either nobody talks about or a lot of people don't realize this. What do teachers actually deal with? A lot. I mean, a lot. If you ever hear a teacher say, I'm not only an educator, I'm a counselor, social worker, secondary parent, all at one time, it's really true. You know, sometimes people will just say, oh, it's the academic, but come on, y'all. We see these kids good 8 hours out of the day. When you do that, you have to navigate kids, teenagers, in a way that they are interacting with other people, and if it's not appropriate, you correct those things, right? They will come to school with things that they bring home. They come from home. Things will happen at school where you got to kind of deal with that. So not only with that academic part, you are guiding them, helping them, mentoring them to get to the academic part. But even if you can't, before you can do that, you got to deal with whatever's going on. Again, I'm a behavior person, so the behavior's the first thing that I have to deal with, and hopefully can get it well enough for that kid to be able to go into the academic setting and be able to perform and learn. Teachers deal with a lot of things throughout the day, and they deal with the kids throughout the day as well, and that's a lot of time with a student, elementary all the way to secondary. Now, secondary, of course, includes middle school and high school. They do have a lot more teachers. They have class periods. So one teacher will deal with a particular student, maybe daily, maybe every other day, depending how they do their scheduling, but they have them for a good chunk of the time. Elementary teachers will have that kid throughout the whole day, for the whole year, and then they'll move on to the next one. So if you think that it's only academic at that time and it's only academic time, there is so much more that goes into that. Paperwork. There's a lot of planning that goes into a lesson. Again, with a lesson, you have to still navigate all the way through whatever is happening with the child's behavior or whatever is going on with the kid. Right? So you have to navigate your lesson plans along with that. So you can take that into effect of when a teacher is teaching. So the paperwork side is obviously the things that go into that. So there's planning that they have to do. There's meetings that they have to collaborate with their team and design a lessons for the week, which is the most efficient way, right? You can have a bigger, broader scope, but every week you're planning for that next week of what you're going to do every day for those kids, right? With those lesson plans, you have kids that learn on different levels. Not everyone is the same level, so you differentiate what you're teaching. So you can have a whole lesson, but yet you differentiate for kids, and sometimes those kids needs groups. And to go above that, sometimes certain kids do have more services. So you have to plan in there when they leave your classroom or when they leave their classroom to work with someone and they're coming back. So they're missing something. So how do you plan to catch whatever they missed, right? So there's the planning part that goes into it, and that's the paperwork side because you do submit these things. And on top of that, you go through paperwork when it comes to progress reports and grading, and if a specialist or someone comes in needing testing documentation, you have all these things that are documented. On top of that, you have meetings that you're going to be doing. with your team meetings, with administration meetings, or with specialist meetings and parent meetings, right? So not only is the teaching helping the students, but you also got to communicate. They also communicate a lot with parents, or attempt to communicate as much as they can with parents. So all those things go into what a teacher does on their day, on the daily. They'll come into work early. Now, of course, elementary comes in a lot earlier, right? And then you still have duty that you have to do. But prior to that, you try to put everything down, get everything ready, and hopefully, if you prepared the day before for the next day. If you didn't, you gotta kind of get all those things together, and then you go to your duty station and you do your duty, and then you go back and you have the kids and you go throughout your daily schedule, and then you have dismissal stuff, and hopefully after the end of the day of the dismissal, then you put things together, clean things up as much as you can, and prepare for the next day, and you do it over and over and over. If that doesn't sound like a lot, just kind of think about it. If you are not in education, look at your day. Do you have a lot of things you do that day? Okay, well then now include kids in that. And if you are a parent, you know that if you're doing something and your kid comes in, you don't focus all the time on what you were supposed to be doing, right? I mean, you end up having to work with your kid. So imagine that with one teacher, and that classroom can have anywhere between 22 kids all the way up to 28, right? And so it kind of opens how much more you have to be in tune with what you are doing. So just kind of think about that. If we were to look at what goes on through the day, there are a lot of things that will affect mental states of teachers. Thing that a lot of people hear, which happens in regular jobs, it happens a lot in teaching. The burnout, right? You are doing these things every single day, and there's just so much things that go on, and you are supposed to produce what is expected. And a lot of those times, but the challenges that come along, and again, like I said, not every kid is the same. Not every kid learns the same, and you have a lot of them, and you are expected to be in charge of all of them when they are with you. So they're in your care, or they're in the teacher's care. And with that, it could be a lot of constant pressure, and your mental state will get challenged daily, and sometimes, a lot of the time, that comes out and looks like burnout. The crazy thing is a teacher will always be there because, let's be real, the payout or the pay that teachers get doesn't match. If you've ever been in a school district, if you've ever been in school, if you ever substitute taught or anything in that, you see it, right? You see what goes on, and you don't feel like you are getting paid the way you probably should be compared to others. And there's a systematic, I believe, restructuring that probably might have to be done on that on fair. I think I'll probably get into that way later. We'll have some co-hosts come in who are also tax funded friends of mine, and I think when we talk about things like that, I think it'll have a good conversation, and I think there'll be a good amount of honesty, and hopefully we can have a good collaboration and something informative for a lot of y'all to just hear and take in. Here's one part of being an educator that is the hardest thing to do, and something I do talk to teachers about a lot is, and we hear it. We hear what happens at school, what happens at home can help a lot of what happens in the school. The part that is hard to do is everyone at school, we can help the kids because they're in front of us. They're at school. We have the help of everyone who works there, the support of the staff, everyone in that school who is an employee or a staff member will help teachers or just help the student themselves. When they are outside and back home, there is no control that all of us can't control anything at the home. Like, we don't know what happens with homework. We don't know what happens, is there enough rest? Are they being able to learn certain things? Are they watching things? Something like that. So, and the only reason I say that is because a lot of times kids will come to school, we hear certain things, or they tell us things like what they were watching or what they overheard, and it kind of comes out, and then we end up talking about it, and that's the whole counseling, mentoring stuff that happens, right? Anyways, the challenge is what happens at home is what happens at home, and what happens at school is the only thing that we can control. And a lot of times that stuff doesn't cross over. I do have discussion with teachers like, hey, just do what you can here. On the behavior side, what that looks like is we see kids who act a certain way at home, and then at school, they act totally different. And we'll get questions about that. And, we just try to be honest about it and be transparent that I don't know what happens at home, but apparently there's a divide of what happens at school, and it doesn't always generalize at home. And sometimes things at home don't generalize at school because there's totally different structures, right? We can only do certain things at school that we're able to do. That's from discipline to teaching and so on. And at home, kids get taught whatever way they get taught, right? From your parents. I definitely teach my own kids certain things that I expect of them at home, and then at school they get another expectation. I mean, my eldest acts differently when he's at school. I acted differently when I was at school than when I was at home. So that is just a reality, and communicating that with parents is probably one of the hardest things to do, right? Because if you're a parent, when you're a parent, you don't want to be told how to raise your kids or anything like that, and nobody wants to hear that. So communicating on what works at school might help at home, or sometimes even what helps at home might help at school. I mean, it's just one of those communicating talks that are probably one of the hardest things to do as an educator. Again, we are going to talk when I have co-hosts come in, and we end up talking about things that we think can fix parts of systems. A lot of the times what I feel is the best thing you can do that is general across the board through anything is communication and being transparent, having a listening ear, and try to see the perspective of whoever is talking to you, and you hope that the other person reciprocates what you're doing. I feel that if you do something like that, we will have a better way of fixing systems. And how to fix them, of course, there's logistics, get all that. But the basis is the communication, transparency, and being honest, and trying to understand what the other person is saying. That not only works for systems, but it works for pretty much anything, right? I mean, I think it's probably the point that you're supposed to do is just be able to communicate with others. But we all learn different ways to communicate. There's ways you're supposed to communicate, and it doesn't mean you do it all the time. Everyone falters on it. I falter on it a lot because I'm human, and hey, life happens. But anyways, I think that's one thing. I'm going to close this by saying that I love working with kids and behavior. I love being able to help them navigate their day and hopefully give them lessons on how to navigate life as they get older and hoping that things stick. And when I see progress as a sped person, you see minute process, like small progress and small success that build up into something big, which been in this for a while. I've had students, from all the way from pre-K that I've seen and worked with, and then now they're at high school. And the change is phenomenally crazy. And you know that you were a part of that. And I think that is probably the coolest thing to ever see and feel that you really did impact something, because no matter what anyone says, and we all say this a lot, but it's very, very true. Our kids are the ones that will inherit everything. They will be the ones that run things when we get older or when we're gone. And so hopefully instilling good stuff and things that I wanted to fix about myself and wanting to fix about other things, and just have them be able to understand and communicate well, and seeing that happen when they are older, awesome. I think this is a general way of introducing education on the part that I will definitely be talking about a lot more, and talking about systems and things that kind of we see in the news. And hopefully, at the very end of the day, we end up learning how to communicate, how to be transparent, clear, honest, and listen to what the other person says, regardless of how much we may disagree. Because there is meaning, because it means something to them, just like whatever I say means something to me, and hopefully be able to communicate better that way and to help fix things. Drop a like, share this, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.